Trump administration fumbled the bag with the release of the Epstein files, quote unquote. Turns out there were none. After calling us all stupid and being exiled from the MAGA cult, quote unquote, Donald Trump made a post on Truth Social saying that the Epstein files were created by Clinton, Obama, Comey, and Clapper. He didn't communicate this properly. And it came across as though he was saying that the files themselves are a hoax. He calls it the Epstein hoax. We'll get into this later, but what he's saying is that it's not that Epstein himself is a hoax. It's that the files that were uncovered in the Southern District of New York themselves were a hoax. Let me explain. James Comey's daughter, alongside himself, have been in charge of the Epstein case for years, including the entire Biden administration. During this time, they've been able to scrub as much incriminating material as possible from the existing slew of information. Pam Bondi was tipped off that all of the information was being hidden in the Southern District of New York. They then raided the office, fired the head of SDNY, and they were left with some confusing information. What we know for sure from Pam Bondi, which she said over and over again, is that there's 14 terabytes of videos of children in child porn. They released this to all the FBI offices all over the country. And after extensive research, and unfortunately, a lot of field agents, having to sit through these disgusting videos, they came to the conclusion that these were terabytes of commercial child porn that Epstein had downloaded for unknown purposes, whether it be for himself or to use it against other people. My fear is that Comey and his accomplices, under the puppet masters, Clinton, Obama, have scrubbed these files of any incriminating material on the deep state, on the Democrats, and they have added silver bullets that incriminate Donald Trump. A lot of this, I think, is going to be previous information that has come out about Trump and Epstein's relationship. We know they had a relationship. We know that 6 Jane Does came out and said that they were forced to have sex with Trump. This was debunked. My prediction is that we're going to hear that Epstein introduced Trump to Melania. Epstein was screwing Melania. And Trump was screwing a bunch of girls. We saw the COO and president of one of his casinos, hotels in Atlantic City, saying that Trump had been seen several times entering the casino with Epstein and all these underage women. And he went on CNN and broke this to the world. Let's not get hung up on people that are just now coming out about stuff that Trump did with Epstein. The Democrats have had 10 years to out Trump. They've thrown everything they possibly could against him. The only way that they could indict him was on a bullshit accounting error. If they knew that he was screwing kids, it would have already been out. This is just like when they said that, Trump pissed on girls in St. Petersburg, Russia. Clearly not true. He likes big, powerful women. This is obvious. Roger Stone is on InfoWars every week, and he's a close confidant of Trump. They speak multiple times a day. And back in the day, when Trump was in between marriages, some of them probably while he was married, we call those mistresses, Roger Stone act as his wingman. So Trump owned this modeling agency, and he would have Roger go vet women for him. So he'd send Roger on dates with the women he was interested in, get to know them, get all the dirt on them, make them get STD tests. And then what Trump would do is he would go on dates with Roger and several women so that the tabloids would know which one Trump's dating or if he was dating anyone at all, especially while he's in marriages. And Roger essentially was his beard or his cover for women. And what Roger Stone knows is that Trump likes big, powerful, sexy, adult-looking women. Even Melania, when he first met her, in her 20s, looks like she was 35 years old. Same with all of his previous wives. Trump likes big, powerful women, not children. And if he liked children, or if he made a couple mistakes and got blackmailed, we would have known about it by now because they've already thrown the kitchen sink out. All this to say, I don't think Trump is implicated in the Epstein case. We would have known by now. I'm not ruling it out. It could totally still be a possibility. There could be something we're missing. There could be a small but fatal mistake he made. And that's okay. I'm open-minded to that. But a lot of people are going too far down the road of blaming Trump and thinking that he's implicated. I think he is wrongfully framed in the latest slew of information that came out about Epstein and SDNY. That's what I'm telling you guys. This is straight from the Nimrod pod. Exclusive. This is an international, worldwide, global exclusive. You better bookmark this post because it's going viral. The problem is how Trump has handled the communication of the Epstein case. But I think it is indisputable that Trump is being misled. We know he's making all of his own decisions. We know he has the joystick. And he doesn't give a fuck what anyone thinks. But I think some of the people he trusts have misled him. We talked about this last week. They misled him into releasing that memo last Sunday. And they misled the DOJ into thinking the files were at SDNY. So Pam Bondi and Cash Patel and Dan Bongino have been going around town saying, we have all the files. We have the client list. I mean, fucking J.D. Vance, the vice president, went on Theo Von's podcast and said, we got to release that Epstein client list. So clearly they all thought we had everything in SDNY, and we just needed to go through everything and make sure we don't expose any of the victims. That all made sense. Trump would not order files to be released if he knew they were going to incriminate him. So I'm kind of getting sick and tired of people who are writing this off for the wrong reasons. Don't write off Trump because you think he's a pedophile. Write off Trump because he isn't being transparent with us. If there's some bullshit in these files, he should tell us. Just like we had to go through with the Russia hoax. And just like we had to go through with the Steele dossier, all this bullshit. We know they like to frame Trump for shit he didn't do. They tried to cancel him. They tried to jail him. They tried to kill him. There's nothing that's off the table. So let's just release everything. And maybe release it in chunks. And maybe have a full press conference where you talk through why this is a hoax. Hey, we know Jeffrey Epstein was a scumbag. That's why Ghislaine Maxwell's still in prison. But we don't have all the necessary information that will appease the public. We don't have everything you're looking for. And to be honest, we don't know where it is. But we're going to reopen the investigation. We're going to have a special counsel, ideally someone like Matt Gaetz. I keep seeing rumors, but apparently it's not happening. I think Matt Gaetz is the guy. He isn't compromised. He doesn't give a fuck. Let that boy cook. Or Ed Martin. Ed Martin, they didn't want Ed Martin to be the U.S. attorney in Washington, D.C. They gave him his own special advisory role where he gets to go after all the corruption in the government. That's great. This is a great example of that. Let Ed Martin fucking cook. This is his time to shine. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. And thanks to all the pressure we put on him, and some of it, again, being people thinking that he's implicated, and they have a right to think that, but clearly they need to do more digging. Trump has ordered Pam Bondi to force the federal courts to release the grand jury testimony. And she was supposed to do this by end of day yesterday. She claimed she would. I'm sure we'll get some information about where that's at very soon, probably before this comes out. But the grand jury testimony isn't enough. We need to order every office, FBI, CIA, you fucking name it, every office within the U.S. intelligence apparatus has to release everything they know about Epstein. Redact all the victims' names out. Redact all the children's names out. And put it all out there so that we know the truth. And then reopen the investigation and let's get to the bottom of what the fuck happened. Now, those of you that aren't deeply knowledgeable on the Epstein case and his history, his life story, you might not understand why we would reopen a case for a gentleman that's dead. But it's because all of his fucking accomplices are either alive or they were killed or they hung themselves in jail, which means they were suicided. Everyone that was behind this is still around. This isn't JFK, where if these files got deleted, if they got burned in a fire, we would have no idea what the hell happened. We can still re-interview the people that have been interviewed. We can still put Ghislaine Maxwell on the stand. We can still go investigate all of these people that were implicated. Tony Podesta, John Podesta. Ehud Barak is still going around town. Ghislaine Maxwell, we can literally start from scratch and get to the bottom of this. There's only one administration in modern history that can do it and could have done it. Donald Trump. I really hope cooler heads prevail. We know where the people in his orbit stand. Tim Dillon had a dinner this week with high-ranking officials of the White House. They confirmed that we need transparency, but the problem is if we put Ghislaine Maxwell on the stand, we're going to have to give her some sort of immunity, and it's going to be a really bad look to be giving a known pedophile, any sort of immunity. They're going to have to do some sort of plea deal. They don't think that's a good look. And clearly there is some shady information on Donald Trump and his close confidants and people in his orbit in this current slew of files.
What I saw from this situation was inconsistency. I mean, obviously there's a ton of inconsistency, but what really confused me was the fact that he campaigned on it so hard. Like, he didn't need to do that to win. That was just something he decided to do. Like, we could have chosen anything else. The border, we could have chosen whatever, like women's sports or something. But like, they were really driving this home. This is going to be the most transparent administration in history. Dan Bongino, I guess not Dan Bongino. I never really liked that guy, but Kash Patel, we thought he was going to clear it out. And that's like the main campaign purpose that they went on. And now that it's kind of devolved, I don't think all hope is lost, of course. You know, we could be dealing with whatever situation that is sort of out of their hands. But what we don't want to fucking see anymore is Trump pointing the finger at the supporters that got him over the line in 2024 and 2020 and 2016. He's losing the core group of people that started him out in 2016. These are people that are seeing the establishment. They're fed up. They know what's going on, and they just need a bull in a china shop to break it up. So pointing the finger at the supporters and claiming outrageous things like, I mean, maybe if it's just a twist of words, like that it never existed, or everybody who thinks it existed is an idiot. Like, that's the wrong way to go about it. I think we're all agreed on that, though. I do think that we might one of the points was that the Democrats would have dropped it already. I think that has to come into question. Um, they're also implicated, first of all. Like I don't know if they'd be able to drop one guy if let's say Trump was on there. I don't know if they'd be able to get him and then not get themselves at the same time.
But
You know,
that's what they've done. They've needed time. They
yeah,
needed time to make sure that they don't implicate themselves, and they can make it so it's a dud file, and they can make it appear as though he doesn't have a client list, and they can make it appear as though he did hang himself, even those are untruths.
yeah,
And they can sprinkle in a little information about how Trump was hanging out with little girls
yeah.
and how Melania's a fucking prostitute.
Hmm.
And we all know that Trump is extremely volatile. We know that Trump, behind the scenes is going scorched earth on the deep state. He's going scorched earth on everyone in the White House. Everyone in his administration is scared shitless of him, which would explain a lot of the uh, behavior we've seen from some of his cabinet heads and some of the shocking moves we've seen from them. Apparently, behind closed doors, he's screaming at people. He's ferocious. He's firing people left and right. And no one wants to fuck with him. Apparently, in conversations with other world leaders, he is literally lighting them the fuck up, and he's telling them, "Hey, Putin, I'm going to bomb the fuck out of Moscow if you go into Ukraine. Hey, Xi Jinping, President Xi, we're going to bomb the shit out of Beijing if you go into Taiwan." And the problem is, some of them might kind of believe him. The reality is he's 100% serious. You could say this is good, you could say this is bad. I say having someone in charge of our military and our nuclear arsenal that is not a Democrat and not a globalist is a good thing. He is going scorched earth, which means when he says he's going to bomb the fuck out of you, he will if you fuck with him. Keep pushing the buttons. He's sick and tired of getting fucked with. He's sick and tired of getting almost killed. And he's sick and tired of people targeting his family. He's sick and tired of people targeting Americans, American citizens, humanity. And he doesn't give a fuck anymore. And he is in control. And this is we've seen him in interviews where it's in press conferences where it's like, wow, I think Trump's really calmed down. He's really zen. He's not yelling at reporters. He's joking around. Well, he's been saving that shit for when the cameras are off. And now that his wife is probably involved and they're throwing another hoax at him when he thought he was finally on the other side of all this bullshit, he's pissed, and we're getting his frustrations thrown on us, which is not acceptable. That's a problem. I understand that he acts this way. This is nothing new to us, but what we need is transparency. 100% transparency so that he can prove, hey, I'm not a fucking pedophile, and we don't have all the information we need to appease you guys.
Yep. Transparency. Transparency. Number one. And number fucking one, actually, is getting the Israeli hands out of this issue. I mean, what is going on X? Everything I see, every anti-Trump pro release the Epstein files post, it's still going. There's about 150 of these American flag baby boomer 65-year-old Deborah or Maurice who are if you want these files released, you were never MAGA. You're never a Trump fan. You're not even American. And it's all from Tel Aviv. They're Mossad bots. And it's fucking real. I swear. I swear, people. But we need a lot more clarity right now. He's losing people. He's hemorrhaging the voter base.
I think true Trump supporters who really know what he's about and who he is are disappointed with how he's going about this. And we want him to release the files, but number one, stop downplaying the issue. Stop downplaying it. This was disgusting, and the severity of it is high. So stop acting like we're fucking crazy for wanting to know the truth and these monsters to be exposed. And I don't know if Ghislaine Maxwell's statement of her saying she's going to reveal the Epstein client list lit a fire under his ass. I'm not sure, but she's saying there's a client list. So you're going back and forth on it doesn't exist to wait, oh, we found it, to okay, we're going to look into it and we're going to release it. It's only a matter of time before somebody speaks up, but he knows what he's doing, and people with common sense and critical thinking skills know it's wrong.
Yeah. And again, well, Ghislaine Maxwell said she's ready to tell all and expose who they were working for. As far as we know, there's not a client list. There was a magazine article that came out decades ago that was highlighting Epstein as, a famous billionaire with a crazy lifestyle. And they were like gassing him up, talking about how he went from school teacher to buying the whole school because he bought this massive school building and turned it into the largest residence in Manhattan. And they also said that he has a crazy list of clients that he holds close to the chest, meaning, yeah, he has a bunch of clients he works with. There's not like a list. There's not like a piece of paper that says, here's who I worked with. We just have a bunch of information on his life, and we're going to have to do even more digging to bring it into the case so that we can go after the fuckers that were pulling the strings. As most of you know, Tucker Carlson hosted Daryl Cooper on his show this week. It was absolutely epic. Daryl Cooper, obviously the most respected historian or independent journalist, whatever you want to call him, in the world. He is the most well-read on many issues. You can find his library of content on his YouTube channel where he will dive into single topics for over 10 hours and give you everything you need to know to fully understand the situation. Tucker gave him just short of 3 hours to lay it all out there for the American people and to put pressure on the Trump administration to give us the transparency we deserve. Daryl Cooper only goes with the facts. He doesn't say anything unless he can back it up, and it is indisputable in the public eye. He gave us Epstein's entire story from start to finish. Let's start at the top. Jeffrey Epstein. He dropped out of college. He didn't even finish college. And he got a job as a school teacher at one of the most prestigious schools in Manhattan. This school is so prestigious. They could pick anyone in the world, the most qualified person in the world, and they would be honored to accept this gig. Well, Donald Barr is the one that hired Jeffrey Epstein at the age of 20 with no teaching experience at this prestigious school in Manhattan. He is a familiar character because his son is Bill Barr. Bill Barr was the attorney general under Donald Trump that had Epstein arrested and oversaw his death, declaring it was a suicide before the investigation was even over. The Barr family, one of the families that has existed forever and controls everything. What else do you need to know about Donald Barr? Well, he also wrote a book called Space Relations. Space Relations is a science fiction novel that is about a sex trafficking ring and mimics Epstein's actual life. It's kind of crazy that he would write this out after hiring Epstein and bringing him into the private sector after his teaching career. Next, Alex Acosta, former labor secretary in the first Trump administration, was the U.S. attorney in the Southern District of Florida in charge of prosecuting Epstein's first sex crimes case. Why is this important? Well, he gave Epstein an extremely light sentence despite 40 witnesses on the record corroborating each other's stories. It was an open and shut case. There shouldn't be no plea deal. Epstein clearly was in the wrong. Well, when Alex Acosta was asked why he did this, his explanation was, I was told Epstein belonged to U.S. intelligence and to leave him alone. That is a quote from Alex Acosta. And just to make matters worse, how light was this sentence that he gives Epstein? Well, essentially, the federal government was giving Epstein immunity for past or future crimes, and then also giving immunity to any past or future accomplices under this immunity deal, meaning if any future crimes are committed, you're good. And any people that decide to join your sick, twisted orbit are also good. Why would he do this? Well, apparently Epstein's a U.S. intelligence asset. This is straight out of the mouth of high-ranking people in U.S. intelligence. Who is Robert Maxwell? The father of Ghislaine Maxwell. Well, essentially, he was the middleman between Mossad and foreign countries. He was a natural-born British citizen who was around during the establishment of the Israeli state, and yada, 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 eventually gets thrown off a yacht and killed by either the IDF or MI6. We know he was brokering deals between Mossad and the KGB, CIA, MI6, and pretty much any other major foreign intelligence network. It's kind of concerning how we know Bill Barr and Alex Acosta have played roles in the softening of the Epstein case, considering they were both in Trump's first administration. Well, we were told that in Trump's first administration, he didn't know DC. He had hardly been there. And he hired all the wrong people and was being misled left and right and didn't have enough power to make a real difference and drain the swamp. We were told that everyone in this current administration was vetted and they can't trick him this time around. He's experienced. Well, we keep seeing this fella hanging out behind Trump in all of his interviews and on Air Force One. This guy's name is Howard Lutnick, Jewish fella, and former neighbor of Jeffrey Epstein. Can someone please do a goddamn deep dive into this bald fuck? You think we're fucking stupid? I thought you learned your lesson, Trump. You got this fucking Epstein neighbor hanging out with you? Israeli intelligence asset? Probably.
Howie, if you can hear this, I know exactly what you're doing, bud. And we all know who you work for. And we know why you're hanging out with the Don. We know that you're explicitly instructed by the Israeli lobby to handle Donald Trump. Like, what are we talking about here? Because this guy is a sneaky bastard, and he's obviously implicated with the Epstein case.
So we know Epstein was in bed with Ghislaine Maxwell. Ghislaine had taken over her father's media empire after his mysterious death. Her father had used this media empire to broker deals between the Israeli Mossad, foreign countries, and corporations. With Epstein now in the fold, they turned this media empire into an independent freelancing consultant company where they would middleman deals agnostically between different foreign intelligence agencies, U.S. intelligence, and major corporations. The only confirmed client of Jeffrey Epstein is Les Wexner. Who is Leslie Wexner? Les Wexner is the founder of L Brands and the owner of the most expensive house in the state of Ohio. Who is the owner of the second most expensive house in the state of Ohio? Well, it was Jeffrey Epstein, and it's right next door. How the hell did a former school teacher without a college degree get all this money? How did he get exposed to some of the most powerful people in the world? To put it into perspective, Les Wexner gave Epstein power of attorney over himself for 15 whole years. This means Epstein could do whatever the hell he wanted with Wexner's money, without his consent, totally legally. And it was almost as if Les Wexner had complete immunity to whatever decisions Epstein made. Why would Les Wexner give Epstein all this power? I don't think it's because he's a reputable businessman. Clearly, Les Wexner had a lot of pressure on him. Whether it's because he's a nefarious man who had a lot of money and was brokering deals between these different foreign countries and corporate interests himself, or if he was blackmailed, or if he slipped up and he was being held at gunpoint and threatened to give Epstein the keys. My prediction is that Israel and the United States came to Les Wexner and they said, you are going to bankroll Epstein's operation. He's going to be the front man. He's going to control the operations, and you don't have to do anything. But if you don't let this man do whatever the hell he wants and you don't give him power of attorney, we will kill you, we will blackmail you, we will expose you, whatever it may be. That is my humble opinion based on numerous facts. So we know Epstein had the power of attorney over Les Wexner. And we know he would show up to meetings with business partners of Wexner, take his shoes off and put his feet on the table and walk all over them. Wexner instructed anyone they did business with to treat Epstein like family and say that his word is better than mine. How did he get here? That's what I want to know. What's the craziest thing about all of this? When Epstein got arrested, Wexner backfilled Epstein's position. Most of us thought when Epstein goes down, the whole operation goes down. But little do we know, there are hundreds and hundreds of Epstein-like figures all over the world today. And the man that filled Epstein's shoes in Wexner's company was charged with child porn possession. I see a trend, and if you think Epstein is the man at the top of the mountain that has all the power and is making all the decisions, you're brain dead retarded. You're probably missing a couple teeth, and you probably ate paint chips as a kid, and I feel bad for you. Epstein was a middleman, just like Robert Maxwell before him. In fact, some would argue that Epstein was the face of the operation, while Ghislaine Maxwell, Robert's daughter, was the real brains. Epstein was not making all the decisions. In court filings, we know that he would complain to Ghislaine about having to have sex with 6 girls in a day just to vet them for all the powerful clients they're about to blackmail. He was literally a dog. He was a workhorse. Epstein was the fall guy for this entire deep state globalist pedophile network apparatus. Epstein was the fall guy. He was not the brains, and he was not the puppet master. Given that Robert Maxwell was tied to Israeli intelligence, we know for sure they were involved. And we have clear and obvious evidence from Alex Acosta and his interactions with U.S. intelligence that the U.S. was involved in this deep state blackmail network. What else do we know about Epstein? Well, when Epstein was convicted in the 2000s case, it was confirmed that his private plane was nicknamed the Lolita Express. What the hell does Lolita mean? Well, Lolita is a novel based on a true story about a guy that takes a 12-year-old girl on an odyssey across the country, raping her over the course of 2 years. Lolita is a novel about child molestation. You're going to see a trend here. Indisputable evidence of Epstein being tied to intelligence agencies, powerful people, and satanic, ungodly activity and thoughts. People forget about Pizzagate because they were scared into not talking about it. Why is Pizzagate important? Well, it is directly tied to Epstein and his network of accomplices. What are the 100% confirmed facts about Pizzagate? Well, we know they did spirit cooking. There's pictures, they publicize it, they weren't afraid to share. Spirit cooking was a ritual where attendees would eat meals off of mocked corpses with blood all over them, drinking fresh breast milk and sperm with these cryptic sayings and goat blood on the walls. And Lady Gaga, Gwen Stefani, Tony, and John Podesta have all been photographed or videotaped at these events. This is a thing you did in Hollywood or in DC. This is how they socialized. Who's Tony Podesta? Well, he's the most powerful man in the Democratic Party that was making all the policy decisions for them. He was pulling all the strings, doing all the campaigning for people. Tony Podesta was arguably the most powerful man in DC. And Tony Podesta had put out op-eds in the Washington Post talking about his love for art. And he published all these pictures that he has from several artists that depict child molestation. Real images depicted in a real publication, the Washington Post. Like, you know someone's powerful when they can break the law and support child molestation openly and not get in trouble for it and have nobody react to it. This was years ago. Let's talk about Israel. Touchy subject. I hate to be an anti-Semite, but I'm going to talk about Israel in a non-positive light. Sorry, these are facts. Ehud Barak is the former Israeli prime minister. And during the time that Epstein and his accomplices were operating, he was the head of Israeli military intelligence. He's been photographed entering Epstein's house in Manhattan in disguises, and he's stayed in the Manhattan house for extended periods of time. I'm not talking overnight. I'm talking days, weeks, months. Another undisputable fact is that Epstein provided the seed money for a tech company that Ehud Barak founded. This company is still operating today. Epstein gave Barak $2.3 million to write 2 papers in another instance. We know that Barak only wrote one of those papers, but Epstein didn't ask for his money back. Why would he not ask for his money back? It's almost like Epstein didn't have any power over this guy. It's almost like this is one of the people that were overseeing the Epstein operation. And we know for sure that victims of Epstein claimed that they were forced to have sex with Barak many, many times. This is a former prime minister of Israel who is still walking around today and operating the same tech company with a bunch of former high-ranking Israeli officials that are collaborating with the current Israeli government and Mossad. So we know Epstein hangs out with all these pedophiles and powerful people. Why does this conversation make people like Mark Levin so angry? So why is it the people that were telling us that we are traitors for not wanting to bomb Iran also telling us that there's nothing to see here with the Epstein case? Well, I just gave you all the evidence of how Israel is implicated in Epstein's network, in his operation. Is it a coincidence that all of the Israeli mouthpieces are telling us to shut up about Epstein and calling us idiots for looking into it and calling it a Democrat hoax?
Yep.
Yep, it's a coincidence. We're all fucking morons. We're all fucking morons. These people are afraid of exposing Epstein's ties to Israeli intelligence. You could argue that Trump is afraid of exposing ties to Israel's intelligence apparatus because he's trying to negotiate peace in the Middle East. And this will turn everyone against Israel. This will cause public outroar, and Trump will lose all of his support. There is no one out there that would openly support us funding a foreign country going into another country and murdering innocent people, especially if these people are implicated in a child sex trafficking ring. I have a tough pill to swallow for the anti-Israeli crowd. And it shouldn't be a tough pill to swallow because it still implicates Israel, but it's a lot deeper than that, gentlemen. This isn't only about Israel. Epstein was a freelancer who also did work for the CIA, the United States of America. So it's not just Israel. It's not just Israel. I'm sorry. It's not just Israel. It's countless foreign nations. It's corporate interests. We could go down a rabbit hole and say, who has more interest in the other, the United States or Israel? Well, the U.S. uses Israel to stabilize the dollar in the region. We know that. They're the only democracy. You could say that's a reason. What reason does Israel have to control the United States? Every single reason. Their entire existence is protected by the United States, and they cannot exist without us. That is a statement. So if you want to go down that rabbit hole, who has more to lose and more to gain? 100% Israel. We don't need them. They need us way more than we need them. Whoever's controlling who, we're all involved. We're all involved, and we should not compromise on any of this. If you'll lie to us about a guy who is raping children, regardless of who is implicated, you'll lie to us about anything. So if you can't give us transparency on the Epstein case, how could we ever trust you again? This whole constitutional republic and this freedom and independence thing goes away if you can't be honest to us about a guy that's raping children, trafficking children, molesting children, harming children, blackmailing people, controlling our government and countless other foreign governments and powerful people all over the world. How can we trust you if you can't be honest to us about a guy committing these atrocities? This is a spiritual issue. This is not black and white. And it's gonna be painful to hear the truth. But the only way for us to trust you, Donald Trump, is by you giving us all of the information and letting us make our own conclusions. So, Donald Trump, do you still think we're stupid? I just laid out countless facts about Jeffrey Epstein's operation. I know you didn't mean it, but you can't tell me the Jeffrey Epstein operation is a hoax. It is an indisputable fact that he was working with foreign intelligence agencies and he was trafficking minors and he was blackmailing powerful people and he was committing disgusting acts on children. He was raping children. So do you still think we're stupid, Donald Trump? Do you still think we're stupid? I know you think you're all powerful and that whatever you say is gold, but there's something that matters a little bit more to me than Donald Trump's word: the truth. So smite me, almighty smiter!
One thing I want to talk about is how we got here. You know, if we had an alliance with Israel that was a symbiotic relationship, which we have many aspects of, you know, there's many benefits on both sides. Stability in the region? No, that's not one of them. The dollar stability? Maybe. But what's one thing that we've seen Trump do in the past, 10 years? He goes over there to Qatar. He goes to Saudi Arabia. He goes to Yemen. He talks with those people. He's cool with them. We're not dealing with somebody who's at odds with the dictatorships in the Middle East anymore. The monarchies. And those countries, they have fucking slavery in Dubai or whatever. So they don't really align with the United States or Western culture. But we don't need a satellite state over there to control it anymore. There wouldn't be any war if there was no Israel there. There wouldn't. Unless, I mean, the Palestinians, I gotta agree with the Jews on this one. There's some really terrible Palestinians over there. Um, you can tell because Egypt has walled them off from fleeing their country into Egypt. So, but the what tainted our relationship with Israel is because they fucking lie so much. They lie on the hour. They lie on the minute. And then if you look at the shills on X, they're always lying. They're always lying, never admit mistakes, never admit wrongdoings. They never admit losses due to their ego. Their ego's so high, they'll never admit a loss. It comes off so terribly to everybody that's not explicitly Zionist. So it's their actions that keep ruining it. They lie that Jeffrey Epstein didn't work for Israeli intelligence. They lie that they didn't do anything in like the USS Liberty. What I've been reading recently is about these Christians that keep getting killed over there. Um, and they're not like run-of-the-mill European Christians. They look like Arabs, but they're Christians and they're in churches, and they're the church, the cross, the spire right out front. The Israeli soldiers were taking pot shots at it with a tank, and they killed like 17 people inside that church. It's like it's happening right now, and it's been happening for a while. They just say it's an accident every time. They'll never admit a mistake. They'll never fire anybody. They just say, "Oops, oopsie." So we got to get rid of this relationship. It was cool. It's not anymore. Um, but in terms of the Epstein trial, you can't trust them. But you can't trust these people at all. They have no reason to be honest about it. Because what if he's not implicated? Then whatever. Like, let's say he's not Israeli intelligence asset, whatever. People will probably still not like him. But if he is, then they're going off the map. They're going off the map. So they need to keep this appearance up. They're like hanging on by the skin of their teeth right now. So Nimrods, if you see the Israeli intelligence assets working on X, be sure to give them a big middle finger and say, we're tired of this shit. All of the younger people see through it. We're here to drain the swamp, finally.
And of course, Netanyahu was at the White House nominating Trump for a Nobel Peace Prize the morning after Trump released the Epstein memo. Israel and the United States oversaw Epstein's blackmail operation in tandem. And the unfortunate reality that the American people are waking up to is that the United States has an unhealthy relationship with Israel. It is unbalanced, and Israel has far too much influence over what we do. They continuously fuck us over and drag us into their bullshit that really has nothing to do with us. And this is a microcosm that has blown the top out of this unhealthy relationship and could ultimately abolish this relationship and free us from the chains of Israel if we are to grant the American people full transparency to the Epstein operation.
Let's go. Come on. That's the only fucking thing we need. It would solve so many fucking problems. We'd have so much more money. I mean, I'm not gonna think about the second order effects, the negative ones, about the dollar and stability in the region, or where we would put them all, you know? Like what's gonna happen to those people? I bet those Saudis would go in there and run them all over happily. So
Let him.
Yeah, I mean,
Let him.
I don't know. I don't know if that's our prerogative. We'll need somebody more extreme than Donald Trump to do that, especially since he's kissing the wall, wearing the fucking yarmulke. We're kind of out of luck. So what I want to know, like, what do we need from here on out? We need an action plan that could restore trust. Because I'd say before a month and a half ago, at least, maybe longer, I was 100% in. I was like, Trump's gonna do it. We're finally gonna see something work. And I knew there was gonna be roadblocks. But now my trust level is almost at like maybe 25%. And I know people that are worse. Pretty much all the staunch Republicans or conservatives or Make America Great Again, America First. Everybody who was on that train, we were all really pumped about the election. We're ready to go, is extremely dissatisfied now. And you see the Rasmussen polls coming through. Trump's doing terrible. And it's not a fucking question as to why. We all see it. The Democrats are taking full advantage. They tried to say that all of the Republicans voted to not release the Epstein files. It was manufactured because they tried to throw a crypto bill through and it was super bad and nobody wanted it. And then they threw that Epstein thing in there to play the political game. Where do we restore the faith? Joey, what could restore your faith? Like what could happen at this point?
I don't know. I'm gonna be honest. I'm not feeling good, man. And to all of our avid listeners and Nimrod Pod supporters, I got a little homework for you. Star Wars 3, Revenge of the Sith. It opens your eyes so many different ways. And the Force is strong in Donald Trump, but I'm really, really hoping it doesn't consume him and take him to the dark side. But as of right now, my expectations are at the floor for what we could see Trump do. I mean, the first 100 days was awesome. We were all giving him props. We were loving everything, giving him credit. But this is like a completely different guy right now. And have no idea what to expect, but to just hold on to hope.
Yeah, I mean the blatant backstabbing, espionage, and influence peddling from Israel as this all ramps up, it just gives way. It gives birth to people like Nick Fuentes, like these extreme America first individuals that, much like President Trump, are off the rails. They are unchained and they are going to go scorched earth. The more we allow Israel to interfere with our way of life, the more likely it is that you're going to have a guy like Nick Fuentes in power one day. And eventually enough will be enough. This kid's 26 years old. He's been doing this for 8 years. Imagine what this guy's going to be like when he's in his 60s, when he's fucking Trump's age. That's a scary sight to see if I'm Israel. The American people are fucking awake.
Robert Maxwell published all of the textbooks for everybody's public school. So everything you learned is through Robert Maxwell's information filter.
I did not know. I did not know that, dude. Like I knew I knew he was a bad guy, and I also knew that we have been completely brainwashed by U.S. public education. But I didn't know it was coming from him and his fucking media empire. Yeah, that makes so much fucking sense.
So when you talk about the Israel situation, you get into Epstein, you talk about his life before Lolita Express and the island and Hillary Clinton. You get to a man named Robert Maxwell. He owned the largest publication in the world, McGraw-Hill. I know you guys all know that name from school. They wrote like every fucking textbook for like the 80s and on. Like, see, what is this? 1989. That's when they started making them. And they still do. They still do. They lobbied their way into all the contracts for the public schools with this government blackmail, and they used that to propagandize every single person in the United States that went to public school. The information that you read in school came through a filter that was designed by Robert Maxwell, Ghislaine Maxwell's dad, Jeffrey Epstein's commander.
So
So
after World War II, did the United States really become the world hegemon, or did Israel? Why have they been controlling everything? Why have they been brainwashing us? Why are they 1984ing us if they didn't even exist when we fucking won the war? How does this work? Like, why are we allowing this to persist? Why we it's gonna take an extremist. It's gonna take extreme action to rid us of this fucking cancerous relationship with Israel. I didn't know that.
I can't believe that actually. That's common knowledge in the far right wing X sphere. Yeah, it's a terrible, terrible relationship at this point. And just everything that comes, like you reap what you sow, right? Everything that we fucking reap from this relationship is somebody fucking a child, or somebody trafficking children, or somebody killing children in Gaza. Anything, anything. Somebody bombing Iran, somebody breaking ceasefires, somebody, somebody, somebody buying up all the radio stations, somebody buying all the fucking public school textbooks. This is the reward that we get from this relationship. And people are so stupid that they're like, we gotta keep it going. We gotta keep it going. And I'm not even gonna say they're stupid. They're confused. They got tricked. And it was an expensive trick, but it's paying off for them so far.
God bless the United States of America, and God save us all.